We may have more information than ever before, but we have not necessarily produced more knowledge. And we have to reflect on that. Think about it for a minute. We have more information than ever before, but we have not necessarily produced more knowledge. No, because information, as you know it, is defined as raw or unorganized data, but knowledge is internalized and applied understanding, and education is the process through which information can become knowledge. And this is a very, very important distinction. Why? Because information without critical interpretation can become misinformation. We see that all around. We are living in an era of misinformation. People get things they think is information, and it's all lies, scams. Era of the scams are loud and many, varied. Information without context can become propaganda, bad propaganda. The word propaganda by itself is a neutral term, but it has become loaded over many decades of political usage. Bad propaganda. And in this discussion about identity, information without self-knowledge can become confusion, while information without critical consciousness can simply become an instrument of domination. This was not the journey that Marcus Mosiah Garvey led us on when he conceptualized his philosophies and his institutions. In this regard, there's a book I have used in some of my discussion, Heather Horst and Daniel Miller's The Cell Phone and Anthropology of Communication. And in that book, what she did was to do an ethnography of Jamaican cell phone use in the late 90s as a part of her doctoral work. The book was first published in 2006 by Berg Publishers. And that book provides a very interesting window into this technological transformation. The cell phone at the turn of the millennium here in Jamaica. Horst research found that the cell phone was used in Jamaica for communication, for entertainment, and social connection. She also found that in this specific national context here in Jamaica, the cell phone was used for creative forms of economic exchange aimed at poverty alleviation. Remember, we're talking about the late 90s, early 2000s, including things like the very distinctly Jamaican practices. Anyone here remembers the please call me and the please credit me features? They don't really exist all over the world, you know. They are created, right? So they are created specifically to extract wealth from those who can pay for the call. Basically, that's what they are created for. And so the providers of these technologies use the cultural specificity of your society to give you what you need. So we got please call me and please credit me. But at this, so one of the things that happens with that is that our culture and who we are respond to the technologies, and these things are created as a part of our reality. Today, this very smartphone, and them kind of dear, somebody somewhere makes a lot of money from them. The smartphone has become something else, many, many things else. And I'm just going to list a few of them. It is a camera, video and still. It is a television, a radio, newspaper. It's a marketplace. It's a bank, political platform. It's a social world. It's a clock. It does everything. The only thing, as I tell my students, that the thing can't do as yet is to wash, cook, and clean. And I have this discussion in every class I have. My students hear it. But what are we doing with it? The phone is also an educational environment. Many people are watching this lecture on their phones. And this is also a very good thing. Some people are using the technologies to educate themselves, create businesses, document culture, and build networks. Others are using them to perform themselves to algorithms. Some are generating wealth. Others are generating what we used to call foolfulness. Except that now it is monetized. And I have a graduate student who just finished a master's research paper, which I am reading, looking at some of the TikTokers who are very Jamaican and what this, culturally what this means. They're doing a cultural studies lens on it. So I'm looking at how that works. But at this historical juncture, punctuated by these technologies, we have to ask ourselves some questions. Because there's a lot of information. Does this technology provide opportunities for who we are? We, Jamaicans, black people, people of Caribbean and African descent. Does it? Maybe it's in the middle, maybe it's on one end. Does it help us to become who we want to become? Does it open pathways to liberation? And that's very important. We need to ask ourselves, because one of the more critical questions we have to ask ourselves, and I think about it a lot, are these new mechanisms of ideological dependency being handed to us as tools of communication and entertainment? You know, it's just nice, and we just have a little fun, and we just go on TikTok and then you just lose 5 hours of your day. Or you're a TikToker and you spend your entire life generating content. And some people put they have a phone in the fridge cooling because it's run hot, and they have a second. It's one interesting world, and I worry a lot that many of our creators, young people, have lost a great deal of time to these technologies that can disappear in a second. Remember the day that TikTok and Facebook and all of them went down. People were traumatized. Their businesses were on hold for several hours. They could not move. You need to think about who has control. And so these questions segue into the multiple discussions around AI, and I won't go into that in detail, except to speak a few points around it. We have a lot of discussions now in our area, educationally and otherwise, about AI. And there are a lot of concerns about the dangers of cognitive dependency in our educational structure. So things like ChatGPT, Claude, PowerPoints are wholly for them. And the lots of language learning models and AI systems are very extraordinary and helpful tools that have a lot of potential to guide our work, to assist us with research, and to generate ideas. These technologies do create the necessary pathways that can democratize access to knowledge. They do when used properly. You get a lot of access to knowledge when you use these technologies properly. But as we wade forward into this digital frontier, I want to also issue a little warning, because AI can become a new age of cognitive entrapment. Your mind tie up and you're not moving forward. Because if we outsource our thinking, our reading and our writing, our questioning and our imagination to machines, we may become technologically sophisticated while becoming intellectually dependent. Remember, it's Jamaica we come from. We create many things. We are creators. I see the drummers we are creators. We could produce a generation that can prompt a machine but cannot formulate an original question. And this same generation could retrieve information, but they cannot interrogate the information with any kind of critical lens. This same generation would know how to ask AI what to think, but they have forgotten how to think for themselves. And that would not be liberation of any sort. Not at all. Indeed, it would not be liberation. That would be what I call dunceness on steroids. Dunceness on steroids. But what I want to plug here is that Garvey's insistence on self-education becomes therefore newly relevant in this new 21st century frontier. We are bracing many frontiers. Garvey taught us to cultivate the mind and to develop our consciousness. And he insisted that we learn, not just prompt. We must learn. Garvey encouraged black people everywhere to read and to think, and thereby to know themselves, to know who we are. And this is precisely the challenge before us now as Jamaicans, as Caribbean people, and as black people all over the world. And so we return to my question, liberation from what? If education is supposed to liberate us, what exactly are we seeking liberation from? Is it from poverty, as I did so many decades ago? Me run from poverty like you see in Bold, father, mother, sister, brother, and all the children that he had. Is it from ignorance? Is it from racism, class oppression, gender inequality, colonial consciousness, economic dependency, cultural erasure, psychological dependency? Perhaps it's from all of these and many others. But I opine in this way about liberation from what? Because the Jamaican who obtains, for example, a university degree, but remains convinced that everything foreign is superior, has been educated, but has not been liberated. The Jamaican who can speak perfect English, but shame of Jamaican Creole, has been educated, but is not liberated yet. The Jamaican who knows European history but knows nothing about African history has been educated but has not necessarily been liberated. And the Jamaican who can code, and a lot of people can code, there are a couple of coders in here, these computer minds, logistical minds, but they cannot tell you about their own cultural traditions and where they come from, has been educated, but there is still a whole heap of work to be done. Enough work left to do. And this is where Garvey's philosophy comes into play and makes us uncomfortable. Because Garvey asks us merely not what do you know, he asks who are you and what will you do with what you know. So Garvey's work is asking us to use education to create knowledge and to use this knowledge to enhance our self-identity. He asks us to liberate our minds so that we can free ourselves from the ideological shackles that hold us in place and that hold us back as a people. Marcus Garvey did not have all the institutional and educational privileges that are available to us today, but he understood the power of the educated mind, and he taught generations to imagine themselves differently. Education, therefore, is not simply preparation for employment. It is more so the preparation for self-definition. I underscore these points. Preparation for citizenship, preparation for creation, preparation for civilization. Perhaps most importantly, as this lecture is trying to remind us, it is preparation for liberation, but liberation reminds us and requires us that we need to know who we are. So let me ask the questions again. Who are we? What are we educating ourselves to become? What kind of Jamaica are we preparing the next generation to create? This struggle for liberation did not end with emancipation. It did not end with independence. It did not end with the removal of the colonial flag, the Union Jack, and the raising of the black, green, and gold that we love so much. And it certainly did not end with the awarding of university degrees. The struggle continues wherever there's ignorance, wherever there's economic exclusion, and wherever somebody else gets to tell us who we are. I am telling you that the struggle continues for all Jamaicans, all Caribbean people, all black people, wherever you are in this brave new world that is fragmented significantly, because we're in the middle of the baga by geopolitical fractures and the resurgence of old forms of exclusion and xenophobia. Is not cute for us out there. So the work of education continues, the work of Garvey continues, and the responsibility is ours. Remember who you are, know where you come from, learn, think, create, build, teach, and pass it on, pay it forward. Because perhaps, even if you do not consider yourself a Garveyite, the most Garveyite act that we can perform in this 21st century is not simply to remember Marcus Garvey. Lots of people remember old Marcus Garvey. Many of us all over the world use Garvey and his philosophies and hold them close to our hearts. Perhaps the most Garveyite act is to become the kind of people who can finish some of the work that Garvey began. This is the pathway to liberation.